Good morning. I'm Michael Porter, and I'm speaking to you from the Harvard Business School. I'm sorry that I can't be there with you at this annual meeting of SBRI in Sao Paulo, but unfortunately my duties here at the school keep me here. But I want to say how much of a pleasure it is for me to participate in this meeting of SBRI, Brazil's leading small business development organization. Congratulations to you for all that you've accomplished, and I want to recognize the board of SBRI and the staff of SBRI for this terrific work. Many countries have gotten interested and understand the importance of working with small companies and small businesses. We see this all around the world. The reason is that small businesses are really a vital core of any economy, and successful economic development requires small businesses to be thriving and growing. We also know that small businesses have a profound impact on the communities in which they're operating, not only in terms of hiring, but also in many other ways. So small business development is a really critical part of economic development and development in general. In engaging with small business, many business development agencies like SBRI in various parts of the world actually spend a lot of effort really connecting with large companies and multinationals. Why? Because they realize that if they can build those connections, this really creates the tremendous opportunities for small businesses to grow and improve and take over functions that they otherwise couldn't do so. And I think SBRI's Business Linkages program is an excellent example of making those connections. And SBRI has really developed a lot of skill in helping the small businesses improve themselves to actually meet the standards of larger companies and multinationals. So I think the question is, how can we take this work to a new level? How can we make it better? SBRI is doing wonderful work. The multinationals that work with SBRI are doing wonderful work, but how can we raise the bar? How can we take it to the next level? How could SBRI really approach multinationals and large companies in a different way that really adds to what you've been doing in the past? And for those multinationals here in this meeting, how could a multinational think differently about working with SBRI and working with small companies in the community where they operate? Now, in order to rethink these efforts, we have to step back a little and reflect on the way in which large companies and multinational companies actually engage with society and with the communities in which they operate. Most every large company has a substantial program today to try to do this. Historically, most of the ways in which large companies engage with society and with communities was really focused around philanthropy, making donations, volunteering the staff of the company to work in the community on important community and social problems. And this was good. And this is something that we see in Brazil and something that I think we all need to learn how to do better and continue to do. Philanthropy is very important. Investing in important assets for the community is really part of what every leading company should be doing. Over time, however, we realized that we needed to go beyond just thinking about giving money and volunteering, but also to a broader set of connections with the community. And in most companies, this is really called corporate social responsibility. The idea is that a company has a broader obligation to society than just giving money. Really, it needs to comply with the standards of the community, obey the law, achieve high ethical standards, and avoid harm and avoid impacts on the environment, impacts on communities that are actually not really in the community's long-term interest. And there's also a growing focus on the notion of sustainability, that larger companies have to operate in a sustainable way, and that means that they have to build assets in the communities in which they operate rather than simply utilize the community or take resources from the community. And most leading companies today have sustainability efforts that are tied to their corporate responsibility programs. But what we have identified and written about is really a very important next step that goes beyond philanthropy and goes beyond corporate social responsibility and avoiding harm. And that's what we call creating shared value. And increasingly what we're finding is that the real opportunity for major companies to influence society and connect with the community is not as a philanthropist or not by trying to do good, but actually by connecting through the business itself, by actually using the business to meet and address important societal needs in the communities in which the business operates. What this means is that major companies are finding many, many new opportunities as they think in this new way to actually engage in community activity, engage in issues like health and poverty and many others through a business model where the large company or the major company actually makes a profit in doing so. And we're seeing now hundreds and hundreds of examples popping up from around the world where the private sector is really using the business to improve health, using the business to improve education, using the business to stimulate the growth of small businesses, use the business in this very, very powerful way. Because if we can use the business to address an important societal need, then we can scale that solution. Because it's self-sustaining and it can grow with no limit. Whereas the traditional model of NGO and government focusing on social issues is limited by resources. There's just not enough money. There's not enough donations in order to do it this way in many of the most important social issues we face. Now, how does this move to shared value thinking actually affect SBRI and affect those of you in this room that are multinationals that are working with SBRI and thinking about working with SBRI? Well, what it does is it really reframes the whole relationship. This is not about doing good. This is not about being a good citizen. This is about the business. And the most powerful way to build the connection between large and small companies is to build a connection based on the business, based on productivity, based on efficiency, based on profitability. What we know about shared value is there's really three kinds of shared value. One has to do with the product that the company sells. So a company that sells pharmaceuticals, for example, is selling a product that meets a very important social need, which is improving health. And the question is how to get that product to customers that haven't been served before. And we're seeing lots of innovation in that area, for example. So the first level of shared value is the product. Those of you in the room that are multinationals, your product, whatever it is, potentially can have a profound impact on important societal needs. If you're a food company, it's about nutrition. If you're a machinery company, it may be about the environment, and so on. The second kind of shared value is around the value chain, the way in which the company does business in the communities in which it operates. And what we're finding is really a transformation of thinking about the value chain when you bring a shared value perspective, reducing the amount of logistics and therefore carbon, using employees in a different way to allow them to earn a better income. All of these things are things that are good for the society, but they also can be very profitable for the company. Saving energy, for example, is profitable. It's not just good for society. And then the third level of shared value is where companies understand that they can improve their performance by raising the standard of the business environment in which the companies operate. And a good example there would be in areas like supplier development. And of course, that's a sign that we now have a very strong connection here to SBRI and what you do. Now, as we think about organizations like SBRI and this connection to small business, we see that there's very powerful examples growing all over the world about how leading companies are creating huge shared value. Business value, but also social value, by new approaches here. Let me give you some examples. In terms of level 2 shared value, or the value chain, there's now a transformation in thinking among large multinationals about procurement, about how you work with suppliers. There's a growing recognition, particularly with the businesses that almost inevitably deal with small suppliers like agricultural commodity companies, that the traditional way of doing procurement, which is you just buy the product as a commodity on the market, doesn't really work. And there's a whole new model. So let's take Nestle, for example. Nestle is one of the leading food companies in the world. They work with tens of thousands, even millions of small farmers around the world who grow coffee, who grow cocoa beans and other crops. Traditionally, they've just bought those crops through the commodity markets, but now they realize that ultimately, if they're going to be productive and if they're going to be able to grow, they're going to need to raise the standard of those farmers so that they can get better quality, so they can get more reliable supply, so there'll be less interruptions in supply. And so companies like Nestle are starting to move and engage much more aggressively with their small farmer population, helping them to improve their quality, helping them to improve their yield. And in many cases, they're using intermediaries to help. Intermediaries like Sabrai.